I gave everything to this team, and this is how they repay me. Dalton Rushing didn't whisper those words. He didn't mutter them under his breath like a frustrated player venting to a teammate. He screamed them. His voice echoed through the Dodgers clubhouse like a gunshot. His face was crimson. His neck veins bulged. And the target of his rage wasn't some anonymous front office executive or a faceless decision-maker. It was Shohei Ohtani. It was Dave Roberts. It was the entire Dodgers organization that had just informed him his days in the starting rotation were finished. Permanently finished. But what happened in the next 30 seconds? No one saw that coming. Not the physical confrontation. Not Freddie Freeman's violent response. Not the tear of fabric that would become the symbol of everything that went wrong that day. And certainly not the additional sanctions that would follow, sanctions so severe they would force the Dodgers organization to make a choice about Dalton Rushing's future. This wasn't just a demotion. This became a full-scale explosion that threatened to detonate the chemistry of the best baseball team in America. The decision landed like a bomb on a Tuesday afternoon. Dalton Rushing, the 26-year-old right-hander who had been given every conceivable opportunity to prove himself, was being permanently removed from the starting rotation. The word itself carried the weight of finality. This wasn't a temporary demotion to the bullpen. This wasn't rest management or an injury rehabilitation period. This was Dave Roberts and the Dodgers front office telling Rushing, in clear and unmistakable terms, that his window had closed. His time was up. His opportunity had expired. The signs had been mounting for weeks. The ERA that climbed closer to 5 with each passing start. The innings where Rushing couldn't escape the fourth without allowing multiple runners to reach base. The games where Roberts had to make early visits to the mound, where the manager's face showed the weight of decisions that had to be made. Where pitching coach Mark Prior would shake his head slightly, knowing that another opportunity was slipping away. The Dodgers had been patient. Extraordinarily patient. They'd invested time. They'd invested resources. They'd given Rushing chance after chance after chance. But patience, no matter how abundant, has limits. And Dalton Rushing had reached his. The announcement didn't come publicly first. The organization did things the right way. They scheduled a private meeting. Just Rushing, Roberts, and Mark Prior. The pitching coach who had worked with him day after day, trying to unlock whatever potential still existed. They planned to have a professional conversation. A difficult conversation, yes, but handled with the dignity and respect that a player deserved, even when being told his role was ending. It was supposed to be clean. It was supposed to be respectful. But respect requires reciprocal understanding. And Dalton Rushing was about to prove he had none. Rushing left Roberts' office with his hands shaking. Not from sadness. From rage. Pure, unadulterated rage. He walked through the corridors of Dodger Stadium like a man possessed. Other staff members saw him and instinctively stepped aside. There was something dangerous in his expression. Something volatile. He burst into the clubhouse at 2:47 p.m. The team was already there. Some players were at their lockers. Others were stretching in the training area. Some were on the field, getting early batting practice in. The moment Rushing entered, something shifted. The air changed. One player noticed him first and alerted the others with a subtle nod. "You want to know why I'm out?" Rushing's voice cut through the room like a blade. It was loud. Controlled but furious. The kind of voice that comes from somewhere deep. From a place of genuine hurt transformed into weaponized anger. "You want to know why the Dodgers just told me I'm done?" He didn't wait for an answer. "It's because they need to make room for their golden boy." The clubhouse went silent. Completely silent. Mookie Betts looked up from his locker. Will Smith paused mid-stretch. Miguel Rojas turned. And everyone knew exactly who Rushing meant. Shohei Ohtani. The biggest star in baseball. The franchise centerpiece. The player the entire organization bent and twisted itself around to accommodate. I've been here for 3 years, Rushing continued. His voice was rising with each sentence. I've taken the ball every 5th day. I've worked my ass off in this organization. I've shown up. I've given everything I have. But apparently, that doesn't matter. Apparently, none of that counts when you've got a guy who gets treated like he's above the rules. Above the system. Someone, Freddie Freeman, stood up. But Rushing wasn't finished. He was just getting started. And Roberts? Rushing shook his head with contempt. He sits there in his office and talks about baseball decisions. Like I'm stupid. Like I can't see what's really happening here. They're making space. They're adjusting the rotation. They're clearing the deck. And who benefits? Not the guys who've been loyal. Not the guys who've put in the work without special treatment or injury management or whatever they want to call it. Rushing's eyes were wild now. Unfocused. Like a man who had lost control of himself but was too far gone to care. Ohtani gets hurt. He takes 2 weeks off. He comes back, everyone celebrates. He's the comeback story of the year. I have one bad start, one bad month, and I'm out. I'm finished. That's the Dodgers. That's how this organization works. Different rules for different people. The tension in the clubhouse had become suffocating. Players were frozen. Some wanted to leave. Others wanted to stay and watch the disaster unfold. But no one moved. Not yet. You know what the worst part is? Rushing was pointing now. Pointing at nothing. Pointing at everything. I respect Ohtani. I do. The guy works hard. But this? This isn't respect. This is corruption. This is an organization that decides who wins and who loses based on contracts and marketing value, not based on actual performance. That's when Freddie Freeman moved. Freeman didn't say anything at first. He just stood up. Slowly. Deliberately. He was a veteran. 15 years in the game. A World Series champion. A player who had earned the right to speak with authority. And his expression made it clear, this had gone far enough. Dalton. Freeman's voice was quiet. That's what made it so powerful. In a room full of noise and anger, Freeman's quiet cut through like a scalpel. What you just said? That was out of line. Rushing turned to face him. Don't. I'm not done, Freeman interrupted. You don't get to stand here and disrespect this team. You don't get to blame your failures on a teammate. You don't get to attack a player who has done nothing but carry this organization on his back. Freeman took a step forward. Then another. Now he was in Rushing space. Close enough that the younger pitcher had to look up slightly. You had your chances, Freeman continued. His voice was measured but cutting. Every word landed like a hammer blow. Multiple chances. How many starts did you get? 15? 20? And in those starts, how many times did you give us 6 innings of quality work? How many times did you actually look like a major league pitcher? Rushing's face was darkening. His fists were clenched. I'll tell you, Freeman said. Not enough. And you know what that is? That's not the Dodgers' fault. That's not Shohei's fault. That's your fault. You're blaming someone else because you can't handle the mirror. You don't know, Rushing started. I know exactly, Freeman cut him off again. I've been in this game long enough to see patterns. I've seen dozens of guys like you. Talented. Capable. But when adversity hits, when the failure starts, you look for someone else to blame. Some excuse. Some reason why it's not your fault. Freeman shook his head. His disappointment was palpable now. More powerful than anger. And Shohei? Really? You're going after Shohei? The guy who plays through pain that would end most careers? The guy who works before everyone gets to the stadium and stays after everyone leaves? You think he gets special treatment because he's better than you? No. He gets special treatment because he's earned it. Because when the lights are brightest, he shows up. Rushing's jaw was clenched so tight his face looked like it might crack. And Dave? Freeman continued. Dave Roberts gave you every opportunity. He defended you to the front office. He told the organization to be patient with you. And this is how you repay him? By attacking him in the clubhouse? Freeman took one more step forward. Now they were almost chest to chest. And what happened next would be replayed on every sports channel in America within the hour. Freeman's hand shot out. Not to push. Not to shove. With precision. He grabbed the front of Rushing's number 68 jersey. The fabric was expensive. High quality. Made to last. But Freeman didn't care about any of that. He pulled. Hard. The sound was unmistakable. A ripping. A tearing. The jersey came partially free from Rushing's body. The fabric at the collar was shredded. The number 68 was still visible, but now it hung at an angle, distorted, damaged. You don't deserve to wear that, Freeman said quietly. And the quiet made it infinitely more powerful than if he'd screamed. You don't deserve to represent this organization. You don't deserve to share a clubhouse with these men. He released the jersey and stepped back. Get out, Freeman said. Get your stuff. And get out of this clubhouse until you remember what it means to be a teammate. What it means to be a man. Rushing stood there. Stunned. Humiliated. His torn jersey hanging from his body like a symbol of everything that had just happened. For a moment, a brief, dangerous moment, it looked like he might swing. Like he might do something even more catastrophic than what he'd already done. But he didn't. He looked around the room. Saw the faces of his teammates. Saw disappointment. Saw anger. Saw disgust. Saw the clear message, you are not one of us anymore. And then Dalton Rushing turned and walked out of the clubhouse. His footsteps were the only sound. No one spoke. No one moved. The silence that followed was deafening. Shohei Ohtani had been in the training room when Rushing's explosion occurred. This was his routine. His ritual. Every day, before practice, before games, before anything else, Ohtani would spend time with the medical staff. Shoulder maintenance. Arm strengthening. The careful, deliberate work of a pitcher trying to extend his career while managing the injuries that came with being a two-way player. He didn't hear Rushing's voice. Didn't witness the confrontation with Freeman. Didn't see the torn jersey. But when he emerged from the training room 15 minutes later, the atmosphere in the clubhouse told him everything. Players were clustered in small groups. Talking in hushed tones. The energy was different. Wrong. Off. The pre-game preparation routine had been disrupted. Something had happened. Will Smith approached Ohtani first. Told him what had transpired. Told him about Rushing's comments. About the attacks on his character. About the accusations that he received special treatment. About the suggestions that he was the reason Rushing was being demoted. Ohtani's face didn't show much reaction at first. He was practiced at controlling his expressions. Years of dealing with media scrutiny and public attention had taught him to keep his emotions close. But those who knew him, really knew him, could see the shift. Could see the tightness around his eyes. The way his jaw set. The slight clench of his fists. What did he say exactly? Ohtani asked. His English was careful. Measured. The English of someone speaking a second language with precision. Smith told him. Repeated the key accusations. The blame. The insinuations about special treatment. When Smith finished, Ohtani was silent for a long moment. His interpreter stood nearby, but Ohtani didn't need translation. He understood perfectly. I work hard, Ohtani said finally. His voice was quiet, but there was an edge underneath. An edge that his teammates rarely heard. Every single day. Same as everyone here. I don't ask for different treatment. I don't want different treatment. I want to help team win. That's all. He paused. When he spoke again, his voice had hardened. He say I get special treatment? He say I'm reason he fail? Ohtani shook his head. A sharp movement. Definitive. No. That's not respect. That's not being teammate. That's making excuse. That's not acceptable. Mookie Betts put a hand on Ohtani's shoulder. Told him to let it go. Told him Rushing was just frustrated. Just lashing out. Just dealing with disappointment in a bad way. It would blow over. But Ohtani shook his head again. This time, the shake was slower. More deliberate. No, he said. This doesn't blow over. Not for me. Respect is foundation. If you don't have respect, you don't have team. You don't have organization. You have nothing. It was the most fired up anyone had seen Ohtani off the field in years. The man who usually deflected attention. Who avoided confrontation. Who kept his focus laser-locked on baseball and nothing else. That man was angry. Genuinely, deeply angry. And that anger was radiating from him like heat from a furnace. Freeman did right thing, Ohtani continued. His voice was steady now. Controlled but intense. He protect team. He protect what we built. If you attack organization, attack teammates, you don't belong here. No exceptions. No matter who you are. Freddie Freeman, who was listening from across the clubhouse, gave a slight nod. The kind of acknowledgement that only veterans could offer. Freeman had seen Ohtani's restraint. His professionalism. His commitment to the team above himself. And now Freeman had seen what happened when that restraint was tested. Within the hour, Ohtani's representative contacted Dave Roberts. Told the manager that Ohtani wanted to be on record, he supported whatever disciplinary action the organization deemed appropriate. He wanted the message clear that attacks on teammates would not be tolerated. That Rushing's behavior was inexcusable. Roberts wasn't surprised. He knew Ohtani's character. Knew that Ohtani would handle this the right way. But hearing it confirmed, hearing that his star player was standing with the organization, with the team, with the principles they all believed in, that mattered. Dave Roberts had been managing professional baseball for decades. He'd dealt with clubhouse drama. He'd navigated egos and conflicts and controversies. But something about this felt different. More serious. More damaging. This wasn't a disagreement about strategy. This wasn't a dispute about playing time between competing players. This was one player directly attacking another player's character. Attacking the manager. Attacking the organization's integrity. And doing it in front of the entire team, which meant the message would spread. Social media would pick it up. The narrative would take on a life of its own. Roberts called an emergency meeting. Coaches only. He closed the door to his office and made calls to the front office. To Andrew Friedman, the president of baseball operations. To ownership. To everyone who needed to understand the severity of what had just happened. Rushing crossed every line, Roberts said, his voice steady but carrying unmistakable weight. This isn't insubordination. This isn't frustration about playing time. This is a direct attack on a teammate's character. This is questioning the integrity of this organization. This is divisive. This is toxic. Mark Prior nodded. The pitching coach who had worked most closely with Rushing, who had invested countless hours trying to develop him, agreed completely. We gave him every opportunity, Prior said. We explained the reasoning. We told him about the rotation change. We offered him a role in the bullpen where he could still contribute. We gave him a path forward. He chose to blow it up. The question wasn't whether Rushing needed discipline. The question was how severe that discipline needed to be. Roberts made the decision within 30 minutes. Dalton Rushing is suspended indefinitely, he announced to the team that evening. He will not travel with this team. He will not be in this clubhouse. He will not participate in any team activities. This suspension is effective immediately. But that was just the beginning. Additionally, Roberts continued, Rushing is being placed on administrative leave pending an investigation into his conduct. We will be exploring all available options regarding his future with this organization, including potential release or trade. The message was clear, there would be no quick return. No apology and move-on scenario. This was serious. Genuinely serious. The Dalton Rushing incident became a defining moment for the Dodgers season. Not because of what Rushing did, because in the end, he was just one player making one mistake. But because of how the organization responded. How the team responded. How veterans like Freddie Freeman stepped up. How Dave Roberts made decisive, principled decisions. How Shohei Ohtani channeled disappointment into fuel. Rushing would eventually catch on with another organization. A minor league deal. A chance to rebuild his career and his reputation in relative obscurity. But he would never escape that moment. He would forever be remembered not for his potential as a pitcher, but for the moment he couldn't handle adversity. For the moment he pointed fingers instead of looking in the mirror. For the moment he attacked a teammate and learned what real consequences feel like. The torn number 68 jersey never made it back to the equipment room. Freddie Freeman kept it. Hung it in his locker as a reminder. A symbol. Of the day he stood up. The day he defended what mattered. The day he showed what it really means to wear Dodger blue. And Shohei Ohtani? He never mentioned Rushing's name again. Never acknowledged the attack publicly. Never let it become part of his narrative. Because that's not who he is. That's not what he's about. He showed up. He worked. He performed. And he let his performance speak louder than any words ever could. Because in the end, that's what separates greatness from mediocrity. That's what separates champions from everyone else. One shows up. One works. One performs. One builds something that lasts. The other just talks.